You should be up and running right about now. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for the sales meeting. We've got a lot of cool stuff to cover today. First of all, though, I want to say a big welcome. We've got a lot of new agents continuing to flood into our two offices, which is awesome, super exciting. So I want to start by welcoming Lucia Huang. Lucia is coming over to us from KW Seattle. Welcome, Lucia. Nice to have you with us. In the Burien office, we have a new agent, Laurel Robinson, who just got her license and is starting in real estate. So welcome, Laurel. And we've got Justin Montoya, who I know some of you have met already. He's kind of been around for a little bit in the office doing some stuff as he was preparing to finish his test. And but he is done, signed on, passed the test, signed on, and is officially a member of the West Seattle office. And then jumping back to the Burien office, we brought back somebody, actually, Thaisa Chadwick from the Burien office. Thaisa was started with us, was really rocking it, and then decided to try out a small company somewhere else, and is back to rock it again. So anyway, welcome back, Thaisa. So good week last week for bringing in some new folks. Please, if you get a chance to see them, make them feel welcome. Thank you, I'd appreciate it, and they would too. All right, quarter one is done. That means what? Quarter of the year is gone. But it also means that you are about to get an email from your lovely OAs with your quarterly reports. So keep an eye out in your email for that. It's got all kinds of information about what you did in your first quarter this year, what you did in your first quarter last year, and then reminding you of kind of what your overall stats were from last year. Secondary pages have some great tools for you to use, things for you to fill out, things you want to do in the upcoming quarter. It's kind of like a mini business plan that you can use as you go. So look for those. Who enjoyed the virtual convention we had a couple weeks ago? We haven't met in a few weeks. We haven't had a sales meeting like this for 3 weeks because we had the convention 2 weeks ago. And then last week we had Zoom Room, which was awesome. Thank you, Russ, and the panel of participants in that. So at any rate, convention, I thought it was great. You know, obviously a little bit different than normal, right? They mentioned where are we going next year? Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. I've never been. Have you? So that is going to be next year. I see Alice shaking her head. Have you been, Alice? You have been. So Alice will be our tour guide for next year. We're gonna do that. Let's see. What were the dates on that? Oh, I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But convention is going to be in Louisville. We'll talk more about that next week in our Burien only and our West Seattle only meetings. What did they do in the convention? They announced IQ, the IQ system, right? And there's a lot of buzz around that, a lot of interesting parts to that. Again, we're going to kind of launch that in our own way with some informative stuff coming up in the very near future. So look for invites for different classes and things like that on the IQ system. It is just getting started, and they're still putting in new features and building on the features that they have right now. So we're giving it a minute to breathe, but in about a week or so, we should have some good trainings on that, as well as, of course, they have trainings on it. If you jump on the national site, the Resource Center, you can find IQ Network and check that out. Also, just good to note, on the IQ Network, there's trainings every Friday morning at 8 a.m. or 11 a.m. our time. That's just an introduction to it. So look for that. You can definitely jump on there, and I'm going to mute Chris there. You can jump on there and check out kind of how to use the system and a good broad overview. But we'll be doing some stuff for you with on the office level as well, talking about the IQ Network. Some pretty cool stuff in there, as we've already some of us have been putting around in there and finding some neat things. Also, every Thursday at 11 o'clock, you can jump on the IQ Network site or tab, and you can find a training on one of their features. Each week, it's a different feature. I think next week's feature is on the calendar. Russ and I actually, for the management, they show it to us a week before. Russ and I were watching that last week, and some really cool stuff. The calendar with regard to social media and doing social media posting and stuff like that. There's some really cool features on there that allow you to be more interactive with your social media in a really simple way. One place, one click, you're there, and then one click and you can do your thing. So very cool stuff there. Pop-in trainings from the university sessions from convention. Remember, convention has all kinds of university sessions, and you can go on the national site and check those out. I think that they're only there until, I think, the 15th. if I'm right. They might extend that. I don't know. They might have extended it. I'm not sure. But I know originally it was till the 15th that those university sessions would be available to us. That's why we have put them out to the office this week and again next week, right? You've seen the email from me about doing the session we just did, 6 steps to double your business in the West Seattle office yesterday, and then the Burien office today at 1:30. That's not a Zoom thing. It's a live in person. Bring your mask, and we'll social distance up, but we'll be showing that and then discussing more. It was great in West Seattle yesterday. Everybody that attended yesterday has said, yeah, I'm going to be there again next week. It was really great, very helpful. Next week's class that we're going to do is 5 tactical strategies to find new listing opportunities. That'll be 1 o'clock in West Seattle live, and it'll be 1:30. That's 1 o'clock Monday, West Seattle, 1:30 on Tuesday in Burien for next week. So Burien, we've got you today and then again next week. All right, what else? Let's talk about what we want to be doing with some marketing for you folks. We're bringing back a marketing thing that we had started in the past, and then through COVID, it kind of got derailed. But we really want to market you, our independent individual agents, on our Facebook and Instagram accounts. So to do that, all we need is something from you. Very, very simple. And it's really going to be a first come, first serve. Our goal is to post probably about 2 agents a week for each office. Just a graphic, your photo, your headshot, which a lot of those new headshots look great, you guys. But we want to get your headshot and a little slogan about you, and we will direct that to you. We'll direct that marketing and advertising to you, to your website. We will try to bring people that are out there engaging with social media, with our social media, directly to you, the agents, and let them kind of see and identify and connect with you in that way. So kind of fun. But what we need from you is your slogan, your tagline, your motto, your, I don't know, whatever you want to say about yourself, right? You might say, Nadine, amazing in real estate, right? Or you might say, Craig Roberts, done it for 75 years, or, whatever you want to say. Craig hasn't done it for 75, but he's done it for a minute, right? So, whatever it is that you want to say in your graphic, let us know, and we will we'll start popping those up. First come, first serve. That's how we're going to do it. So email your actually, don't email your OA. Email Maria Fleming. Maria's popping these things out. So email to Maria, send her your slogan, and as those come in, that'll be the order for each office. Of course, it'll be independent to each of the offices' social medias. So 2 for West Seattle, 2 for Burien. Cool. Also on social media, I just wanted to bring this up. I thought it was awesome. I have not cleared this with the person that did it, so I'm going to leave names out. But so no, if I mention names in here, I've cleared it ahead of time. Right? I generally check with you guys before I use your names. But a Facebook post that I saw a week or so ago that I absolutely loved, and it was very, very simple, but very, very engaging. And it just said, "Hi everyone. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is," and then she gave her name, and then it says, "My close friends call me," and then she gave another name that her close friends, and it says, "And you can call me that too." Awesome. So, but it's the next line that I love the most. It says, "If you're following me, I hope to be your go-to real estate resource. With that being said, ask me anything. I'm here to help." I love the use of resource, right? It doesn't say your broker, your agent, your rep, none of that. It says your resource, right? Which opens up to all of the things that we can help people with. And she does a very good job of just being really simple, concise, and straight to the point to, hey, help out when you can. Or I'm sorry, I got distracted by that one. I clicked mute on that guy. I think that was Kanoki. But it's really concise to say, hey, if you need something, I'm here. And then it engages. It says, ask me a question, right? And it does it in a very public way so that to get the ball rolling, right? A discussion going. Now, I should probably follow up and see how that is kind of progressed. But the point is really simple, something that everybody can do and get some engagement with. And I'm going to leave on social media stuff by saying this. I've been loving seeing all of the new headshots on social media. So everybody that had come in and got their headshots here in the office have been posting those on social media, getting great results, great feedback. And I was just talking with somebody this morning that said, I'm getting so many likes on my headshot. It's great. And then we went, well, wait a second. We should probably be connecting with each of those people, sending them a private message and saying, hey, it's been a while. How's it going? Right? Use that engagement, use them identifying your picture and connecting that with real estate, right? to then open the door to have a conversation. You've already greased the skids. It's already ready to go, right? You've already baked the conversation. All you got to do is reach out. So if you get a chance, go back through if you've been posting your headshot or when you post a new headshot in the future and message those people independently. I think it's a great idea. All right. I mentioned in emails, we got a contest. It's been a while since we've done a contest, right? And those of you that know me know that contests are not necessarily my thing. But I have one go-to contest that I really, really enjoy. And I hope you do too, because I know that it gets good results. And that is our CMA contest. And we're going right back to it. Don't worry. For those of you in Burien, we actually started this last year in Burien right before the convention, and we were going to start it right after the convention in West Seattle. But then the COVID lockdown and everything else, and it just kind of got blown out of the water. So don't worry, if you were in it last year and you won one of the weekly prizes, you will be in the main prize drawing this year automatically. So here's how it works. Very, very simple. You do a CMA for anybody. It can be for a client that you're actually getting close to listing their property, or maybe you have you're competing for that listing, you're doing some interviewing, whatever that is. It can be a CMA that you send out that's maybe for your SOI. Maybe you do it for folks that you have sold a house to in the last year and you want to show them what it's done in the last year or 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is, right? It can be your SOI to your friends, your family, right? You can do it to your farm, maybe your neighborhood, right? You might not be able to do really in-depth SOIs to your neighbor, right? You might have never been in that house, but you can do what we call a dirty CMA, right? Some general comps with the size and the price range, something that doesn't really identify exactly their house or the nuances of their place, but something simple that you can send to them and say, hey, this is a really cursory CMA, but if you're really interested in what the market has for your house, I'd love to do a more in-depth CMA for you. Let me know, right? There's a million ways that you can do CMAs and get involved in this competition, this contest. So you get creative with it. But here's the thing. The key is you have to use Cloud CMA to do it. Because when you email someone a CMA through Cloud CMA, or you print it off to delivered or however it is, you always have it in a form you can email to us. So every CMA that you do, that you email to either Nalani if you're in Burien or Russ if you're in West Seattle, for every CMA that you send in, you get an entry into the drawing. And it's a weekly drawing each week. Okay. So the nice thing about this is, hey, if you were, bogged down, 1 week and you couldn't do any, no big deal. You can completely stuff the ballot box the next week. And at the sales meeting each week, we'll draw a name for each office. And those will be our weekly winners. Weekly winners get a $50 gift card to Merrill to get, other marketing pieces, things that you want to get there, business cards, flyers, hangers, door hangers, clothes, I don't know, whatever you want to do. So it's $50 for your weeklies. And then we're just doing this for 4 weeks, folks. This is a quick one. This is kind of a lightning one. But I want to get it knocked out quick because I want you to get these CMAs into people's hands. We know we need listings. This is a great time for this. So we'll do 4 weeks and it starts today. So if you're on the call today, you kind of got a head start on everybody else. Your weekly CMAs have to be sent by Monday at 5 p.m. Anything after Monday at 5 p.m. will just go into the next week. No worries. But we're going to have 4 weekly winners. We'll take the 4 weekly winners, and on our West Seattle and our Burien only sales meetings on May 11th, that will be the 5th week, and we will draw one of those 4 names for the grand prize. We'll send out a graphic that is all made up that shows the grand prize options. There's all kinds of things you can choose from, some pretty cool stuff, including a sales convention package for 2022. So check that out. We'll send an email out a little bit later today on the contest. You can actually get more than 1 entry into the grand prize drawing because you could win multiple weeks in the drawings for the weekly drawing. So anyway, real simple, keeps everybody engaged. You're not behind. You're never behind in this contest, which is what I really like about it. You can engage at any point and really get going on those CMAs. If you got questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, please let me know later. I'd love to chat with you about it. But this should be a lot of fun. And I'm really curious to see kind of what kind of numbers we get out there. We know we need these listings. So let's actually make action to put some stuff out there and see what comes back. All right, let's talk about some weekly stats. Again, we haven't met in a few weeks, but looking at the active numbers in our areas, we're pretty darn similar to where we were 3 weeks ago, where we left off. West Seattle, Area 140, is got 124 active listings, residential and condos currently. It was 124 listings 3 weeks ago. So it looks like we're pretty steady Eddie there for a minute. Burien is at 56. It was at 54, 53, 53, 56. I mean, same, really pretty steady there in terms of the inventory in Area 130. Area 120 is 26, which is kind of up from what it has been for the most part. In Area 110, those folks over there that are trying to sell homes in Area 110, there's not much. There's 12 active listings in Area 110. Can you imagine that? An entire MLS area with 12 active listings. That's incredible. Active listings for the entire MLS are up year over year, right? Because again, we're right in the middle of the beginning stages of the lockdown from last year. So active listings are up, but active listings are down this last week over what they were this year, the last 3 or 4 weeks. So a little bit of a bump down in April, which is really interesting. I would expect to see listings probably pop up again in the next week or so. I think we probably will see some pretty good numbers coming, but that's what's going on there. Pendings, of course, are way up over last year again because of the lockdown. So we're going to see that. We're going to see residuals of that for the next weeks and months to come, I would imagine. So I'm expecting to see more there, but the pending numbers are up quite a bit over what they were earlier in the year. So we're seeing way more than last year. Of course, let's put last year away for a second, but we're seeing pending numbers that are up week over week over week over week here for this year. Same with the solds. Same exact story with the solds. Interesting, but still, it's boring because we say the same thing, it seems like every single week on median home prices. But again, setting records. We are up to 575 for a median house price across the MLS. I mean, a year ago it was 100,000 less than that. I mean, it's huge increases on the median home price, and that's up from 555 last week to hit which was an all-time high. 555 was an all-time high last week. 575 is an all-time high this week. Again, it just continues to show that homes at higher price points are moving right now in this market, still with the low interest rates and the low inventory. So there's your stats. You want some calendar stuff? Let's do some calendar stuff. We got some cool stuff coming up. Let's talk first about tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, it's tomorrow. Wednesday, tomorrow, 11 to 12. Net proceeds with equity. This is a neat little class, actually. You've all gotten invites. It's in your email. I highly suggest check that out. I always highly suggest checking out the classes that Equity does, but net proceeds is really an interesting one and something that is really helpful when you are working with your clients and talking with them about selling their homes. On the 15th, this is something else that I'm actually really excited for. The 15th, I sound surprised. I'm not surprised that we've got fun stuff coming, but this is neat and kind of new to us. Left Coast Services is coming in. This is not a clock hour class. Neither is the last one that we just said for Equity. That's just a 1 hour class, not clock hours. This one on the 15th, April 15th, is all on oil tanks. I mean, when was the last time that you had an update or a briefing or able to ask questions about oil tanks and the process and all the things that you need to look out for and pay attention to on oil tanks? All you need to know about oil tanks from 11 to 12 on April 15th. Invites for that are going to go out here shortly, but make sure put that on your calendar. That is one you are definitely going to want to make. And then Equity's got a great clock hour class for us on the 21st from 11 to 2. This is 3 clock hours, and that class is called The Documents. I'm going to let them talk a little bit more about what that's going to cover. It's going to cover the documents. So there you go on the 21st. Awesome. And then convention, I know I mentioned it before, but March 13th through the 15th of 2022, put it on your calendars. You're going to want to put it on your calendars. And next week, in our Burien only, in our West Seattle only meetings, I will explain why you want to put those on your calendars already 1 year out. Get it in your calendars, please. All right. With that, let's talk. Janet, are you covering this? This is cool. Are you chatting about this, or who's from from Equity, who's covering this flyer I'm going to show here?
I think Kelly's starting. I mean, I can. Kel, what's up? Do you want to start?
You guys are going to work together. Janet, you're a little on the quiet side for whatever reason, your mic or something. So you might want to get up closer or.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Hold on.
Can you hear me, Tay?
I can. I'm going to bring up the flyer here, and I'm going to show everybody the flyer. Hold on just a second.
Thank you. I'll start.
Well, I said I was going to show it. Hold on. Here we go. Here we go. A little technical difficulty just for a second. There we go. Are we looking at the snapshot, market snapshot flyer?
Yeah, thank you, Tay, so much. So first of all, I highly suggest that you guys go check out equitywa.com. We revamped our website, which is absolutely beautiful, but we have this new tool for you. It's called a market snapshot. And like Tay was saying, with your contest coming up, everyone likes to know the stats and an overview. This is a simple way to go in and customize a market snapshot for your farm area, for a particular neighborhood, for maybe even your neighborhood where you live. And you can send this out. And what it does, it kind of shows, it breaks it up into corners. It shows owner occupancy rate, average sales price, but it's updated consistently as it goes through the quarters. And it's a beautiful, easy view to utilize when you're talking about, what the market's done in your specific area. I find brokers using it for not only their farm, but their SOI, like you said, reaching back out there. And one thing I want to let you guys know, and I'll let Janet take it away, is there is a charge because it is a value. It's $2, but once you pay that $2, it constantly updates. So it's a great thing really to dive more into your farm and utilize it as an SOI. Janet, you want to touch on some of the other things we chatted about?
Yeah, so I think you covered most of it, but I see brokers using this. I mean, you could do this right when you were going out the door for open houses, for an item of value for door knocking, use for, like Kelly said, for your farm, one of the months for your farm, because there's two ways you can basically build this. One is by your zip code. So you can put in a zip code and it will build it by that zip code, or you can draw out your farm and it'll pull all the houses or the condos or both by what you drew basically. So and then it just, like she said, it updates. Once you pay that $2, it will stay in your profile and update. So you could send it out quarterly to your farm because it updates, as it goes, but I think quarterly would be the best way to send it out to your farm. So I think it's pretty cool. And it literally you build it like that. So something new.
Deidre asked if it was branded to her. No, unfortunately it's not. It's just branded to Equity because we're collecting the data, but I still think it's go ahead. Actually,
it does have the Equity title up in the right-hand corner, but in the middle, there's a middle section of it you'll see there. And it has all of her information on it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. It's branded to her. Yeah. Jane, where it says Jane Smith. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So it'd have her phone number, her email, and her name. Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. Can you just really briefly, in a tiny moment, the $2, if you're not used to, if you haven't been with the company for a while or in real estate for a while, and then we hear like a title company, escrow company say, hey, we're going to charge you $2 for something. Can you remind us, Kelly, of why that is? And I'll identify this is exactly the kind of thing that Modus, that email that I sent out about the Modus title and escrow company and how much trouble they had gotten themselves in. And it really had a lot to do with RESPA. And can you just real briefly explain that, Kelly?
Yeah, we are governed by the Office of Insurance Commissioners. So you'll hear the terms sometimes with title companies, OIC. We're regulated because I'm just going to take it way back and make it super easy for you. The consumer pays for the title insurance policy. Therefore, as a title company, we cannot give things for free. And that's where we think Modus got into a little bit of problems because the consumer pays for our product and not the brokers. And so therefore we have to put a dollar sign with the item of value. And yes, we are. And right now, thank you for bringing that up, Tay. We're the new kids on the block. We get audited regularly, just probably like you guys, you have your code of ethics that you have to follow. We have specific guidelines that we have to follow. So once, and I like to, point that out up front because it is important to us and also to you too. We would never want one of our brokers to get in trouble with RESPA, and we would not want to get in trouble with the Office of Insurance Commissioner. So.
Which may be happening. And again, this isn't brought up about the Modus situation. This is just, when you hear like, hey, we're going to charge you $2, that just sounds petty. And this is the reason for it. In the past, title and escrow companies were giving things out left and right, and it was no problem. And that's just been really knuckled down on it. And when you say too that you're the new kid on the block, we're talking about new to Washington, right?
Right.
Huge national company, tons. I mean, one of the bigger title and escrow companies in the country. So just wanted to clarify for
we're part
us
of the Orange Cook family.
We're new here in Washington,
yes.
but the company itself is quite substantial. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for that, ladies. I sure appreciate it. Kara and or Mark with Prosperity, where are you folks? You're here.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Kara, are you on this morning? Yep. Well,
yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Do you want me to take this?
Go ahead.
Bad or vice versa?
You got it, Mark. Go for it.
Okay, here we go, guys. Okay, so let's talk interest rates right off the bat. This is based on a $600,000 purchase, 10%, excuse me, 10% down, conventional type loan with 760 credit scores. You're looking at about 3.25% interest today for a 30-year fixed. I think that's about the same as it was a week ago or so. It's down a little bit from where it was a couple weeks ago. FHA is at 3.125% today, and VA is at 2.875. So hopefully these rates are going to hang around in this area and not go up on us anymore in the future. I know Kara and I have mentioned a lot about the Home Advantage Zero Down FHA loan program. We just want to make sure everyone is aware of it. This is a great program for people that don't have the necessary 3.5% down payment. For example, for an FHA purchase, they're able to get a second mortgage, which is forgivable over 5 years at 20% a year. They do not need to be first-time buyers. There's no income limits. It's a great program for someone. Really the only thing, especially for people that don't have the funds for the down payment, the way our market is now, though, they're going to need to try to figure out a way to pay the closing costs, because I have a feeling you're going to have a hard time getting a seller to pay closing costs. But that program is available. The interest rates are higher than regular FHA mortgages, but they're certainly out there. Other than that, Kara, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think that's really it. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, guys. Any questions from anyone? I think I saw something.
There's a couple of questions on the stuff from Equity. So if you got a question for Mark, go ahead and type it in. But let's real quick hit these questions for Equity on that new Market Snapshot program. Amy Onitz asks, can you do an MLS area?
Yes, if you knew the north, all the boundaries, but we can't put in like 140 or whatever. We'd have to know the actual boundaries, and then we could draw it out. Definitely.
Okay, so something that you can help with for sure.
Yes.
You can knuckle that down. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And Nadine says, is it a reoccurring charge? And I know that you said that the $2 isn't, but are there reoccurring charges?
No.
No. Is that for different areas? Is it $2 for each area that you might get?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. So if you want to knuckle down on one specific area, it's $2 once, and it re-updates itself, and you can use it forever. And your $2 is infinitely there and done and invested for you. But if you wanted to go into different areas, you pay $2 per area. Awesome.
Yes, you got it.
Good. Angelica does post here. What does it say? Just wanted to share that I have a client using the new Zero Down DPA through Prosperity. Everything is moving along smoothly. Not surprised. Fantastic. Thanks to Angelica for sharing that. It is quite a heck of an option, a program. Really, I mean, if your clients fit into that, that's free money and a 0 down loan. I mean, come on, that's huge. Okay, great. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about some forms. You want to talk about some forms? I want to talk about forms. I love talking about forms. If you think that we don't take the forms seriously enough, these are my notes just for page 1 of the forms that we're going to tackle right now. Now, don't get worried. It's not that bad. It's actually fairly straightforward, the forms changes, but I want to make sure that we're touching on each part of how these impact what we're doing. Really, the changes, we were talking to some of us before everybody jumped on, but I will say I'm pretty impressed with the MLS from a standpoint of that they have made the changes, or some of the changes that I think are really important, and they did it pretty quickly, in relation to how they generally make forms changes. So I do appreciate this, and I think that some of you will as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so that you can see the forms as I am talking through them. Let's bring that up. Boom. Are you guys looking at the 22 AD red line form? Right on. 22 AD, additional down payment, additional funds, right, towards a low appraisal. Remember, this was one of the ones that was just changed. Well, all of the 3 of these, there's 3 documents we're going to talk about. All 3 are ones that have been recently changed. Remember, though, on this form, they gave you an option 1 and an option 2. They're for utilization depending on what other form, what corresponding form you used. So option 1 has to do with if you use the financing addendum, the 22A. The second option is the appraisal addendum. If you just left your financing addendum out and just waived it by omitting it, but you still wanted the appraisal contingency, then you would have used a 22AA. Now, the changes that were made on this form for each section are the same. They're mirror of each other. So we're just going to talk about what's in section 1 because that's also what's in section 2. I'm going to draw your attention to, of course, there's a big sample written over the front of this, but right in here, I do right in there. No, it's not going to let me highlight it, but right here, I don't know. Can you see? It went from shall to may in this portion. So I'm going to read this, but I want to draw your attention to that first. And it talks about buyer's notice to seller. Now, remember the major change in the 22 AD, or I'm sorry, in the 35. Well, let's get into this, and you'll see where we go. Let's just read it. Notice to seller: if buyer becomes aware that the sum of the lender's appraised value and the buyer's additional funds is less than the purchase price, buyer may. They changed it from shall. Now, when they said shall, that's an order. It has to happen, right? So now they're saying, hey, the buyer may deliver written notice to the seller of the fact that the appraisal came in low, right? That we got a low appraisal, including a copy of the lender's appraisal within 3 days, if not filled in. End of sentence, right? That's all the black there. Okay, cool. So just a reminder, or the point being that they have changed it to that the buyer isn't required to give notice of a low appraisal. They may give the notice of low appraisal. The next sentence is the new verbiage that they have put in. If buyer waives paragraph 5, the appraisal less than sales price, in the financing addendum, the 22A, remember it would also be the same for the 22AA if you utilize that, right? Then buyer shall be obligated to purchase the property at the purchase price and may not give notice under this paragraph, all right? So if you have already waived your financing, this is just identifying and saying in plain English, if you've waived your financing contingency, then your 22 AD, the amount that you're willing to bring towards a low appraisal is irrelevant, and it does waive that that portion. You're buying the property at the purchase price. Okay, awesome. The second part of that, or the new portion there, this section C under number 1. If we look at that again, it went from, it changed again, but it changed the other way. It went from may to shall. So now it's an option, right? If seller receives, this is important. If seller receives the above notice from the buyer, so they do get a notice of low appraisal, the seller shall, they have to, they're now compelled to deliver notice to the buyer within 3 days if it's not filled in. That notice could be one of 2 things. A, reducing the purchase price to an amount equal to the lender's appraised value plus the buyer's additional funds. So Seller can say, fine, I'll sell it to you for the new appraised price plus whatever the additional funds are, even though that's less than the purchase price that we agreed on. Seller can do that if the buyer gives notice of low appraisal. The seller could also decide option B, which is to just straight up terminate the agreement, in which case the earnest money goes back to the buyer. So as a buyer's agent, are we paying really good attention here? Because if we give notice to the seller that we have a low appraisal, there's only two options the seller can choose. The seller can choose to go ahead and sell the property at the appraised price plus the additional down payment money, or terminate the agreement. There's nothing else in there. There's no more this, hey, there's an option to go back and forth and negotiate a price that's somewhere in the middle or anything like that. That's not what it says. It's not what's there. All right. Also, you'll notice if we skip through the lined out stuff, we're not going to focus on that because that's gone. That's done. That's not a thing anymore. But what is a thing is that there is verbiage that says exactly what happens if the seller fails to respond. Here we go. If the seller fails to timely respond, the agreement shall terminate and the earnest money shall be refunded to the buyer. So if the seller just flat out doesn't respond to that notice, then guess what? It's terminated. Again, this goes back to that B section where it changed from shall to may for the buyer to give notice to the seller. Now the seller or the buyer may go, whoa, 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 wait a second. I don't want to give notice to the seller because while my purchase price was $100,000 and the appraisal came in at $80,000 and the additional funds I said I would bring in the 22 AD was $10,000, it leaves me a delta. It gives me a gap of $10,000. But if I give notice to the seller might pay that extra $10,000 or bring the price down $10,000. Or they might just terminate, and I don't want to lose it over another $10,000. So I'm not compelled as a buyer to give that notice. I can just not give notice of the low appraisal, not tell the seller that there's a low appraisal, and just go ahead and purchase the property and bring a net additional. I said I was going to bring 10, now I'm really bringing 20, but maybe that's okay with me because I want to purchase the property because there is no more negotiation. Either the seller says, yeah, I'm going to reduce the price to the price that it needs to be to make this happen, or no, I'm not going to do it at all. Contract's terminated. There is nothing in the middle. Okay, so that's the change to the 22 AD, the additional down payment. All right, let's talk about the 35E, the escalator addendum, which we've changed again. But again, I think this is really a change for the better. I know it's a change for the better. I'm going to scroll down here to page 1 towards the bottom where all the red is. That's the fun stuff. Now, remember the thing about the escalator clause. One of the big changes that kind of created this gotcha real estate moment, or this adversarial buyer versus seller, and hey, if you screw up, I'm going to get you kind of a situation, right? Remember with the escalator addendum that change was all centered around that if you had multiple offers as a seller, and the offer that was the highest offer was had an escalator, and the escalator was engaged by another competing offer, so it got used, and the escalator went up, 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 right? And if you as the seller, or really if you as the listing agent, got mutual acceptance, had your seller sign off on everything, did the worksheet, and sent that contract over for mutual acceptance to the buyer, but you failed to include the competing offer that engaged the escalator. Remember what the new form was saying is that, hey, you are in some serious deep water, right? Hot water here, because all of a sudden now it is going to be whatever the purchase price is, the seller is obligated to sell for the purchase price on the first page of the purchase and sale agreement, not the escalated price, because you didn't send the competing offer that escalated the deal. So what the MLS has done is gone back and said, okay, all right, we hear you. That's absurd. And it really was absurd. So here is their remedy. All right. First thing I'm going to point out, not really all that relevant, but right here, goodness gracious, it just does not want to do this. But this number 3, seller's acceptance, the red line there, seller's party or the party shall use the escalation addendum notice form 35EN for notices required by this section. That verbiage was already in there, and it's just reminding you of what form to use for notices with regard to the 35E. It was in there on page 2 a couple of times, and they've removed it from page 2 and just put it right there and put a little bow on that, made that nice and easy to see and identify as you're going through the form to remember what you need to use for your notice there. All right, but let's talk about the meat. Here we go. The meat is right here. 3A, letter I, right? First one here on A was the only one there. If seller fails to provide an offer to be used as a competing offer to the buyer at the time of mutual acceptance, right? So at mutual acceptance, if they send it over, but they only send mutual accepted contract and they don't send that competing offer, then buyer may give notice to seller of that fact. So tell the seller, hey, you didn't send it within 3 days, if not filled in. So now, if the buyer doesn't get it, they have 3 days to let the seller know, hey, seller, you didn't show me what that competing offer was. I never saw that. Now it's not instantaneous, okay? If the buyer fails to give such timely notice, then the buyer shall be obligated to purchase the property at the new purchase price calculated by the seller. Whether it's right or wrong, the calculated sales price doesn't matter anymore because you agreed to it. You agreed to hear after 3 days. Your option or your privilege as the buyer is now gone. You don't necessarily get to see that other offer and calculate for yourself. If buyer provides such a notice, seller shall have 1 day, if not filled in, to deliver the competing offer to the buyer. So now it says, hey, the buyer can ask for it if the seller didn't provide it. And now it says, hey, seller, you have, once you get that notice requesting this document that hasn't been sent, this competing offer, then you as the seller have 1 day. Remember, that's a business day. That's not a weekend. 1 day. So if it was Friday, it would really not be due until Monday to get that competing offer to the buyer. All right. So now we don't have a situation where it's like the listing agent screwed up and forgot to attach something or thought they attached it and didn't. And now all of a sudden, gotcha. Right. Now we don't have that. Now we've got this kind of ebb and flow, and there's got to be some communication before we have such huge ramifications for an oops. If seller then, so now seller has, so now buyer has asked for the competing offer. And now it says, though, if the seller fails to deliver it once they've asked for that, that competing offer, if they fail to get it to them within the day, the buyer shall be entitled to purchase the property at the non-escalated price. So now we go back to that big, bad, hairy, problem. But at least now we kind of have some back and forth. We have some communication that has to happen. So we still have to be really diligent about paying attention. We really still, best practice is to send the competing offer with the original offer. But we've got some time. We have the ability to not find ourselves in such a bad spot so darn quickly. All right, section B. Again, I'm going to draw your attention to the shall, which has been removed to may. The buyer may deliver notice. They're not obligated to deliver notice. They may deliver notice to the seller of the fact that they didn't get the secondary offer within 3 days, if not filled in, of the receipt of the competing offer. So this is just changing the terminology in order to utilize the section that they put in above it, right? So they're saying instead of at mutual acceptance, because now it's not due at mutual acceptance, that second offer, well, it should be done at mutual acceptance, but it could be done up to 3 days after. So now it's saying, hey, now the buyer has their time frame on their review of that competing offer and whether or not the math was done right. They now have, they now have it from receipt of the competing offer rather than mutual acceptance. Makes perfect sense. Awesome. And then on the second page, this is just where they move some stuff around. The top section, the bottom section that's lined out is the Form 35E stuff that we talked about, and then some mays to shalls, but really don't impact us too much there. All right, let's talk about the last one. This is super quick. The 35EN. This is the notice that has to do with the escalator addendum, right? So this is just a one-sided notice, right? This is the buyer's telling the seller something, right? And then it has later an option for the seller to tell the buyer something back. Okay, but the changes, we're just going to cover the changes The only thing that's really relevant here, even though there's quite a bit of red, is just here where it says no competing offer, right? So under the buyer's notice here, where it says no competing offer. All right, cool. Buyer. So if the seller fails to send the competing offer at mutual acceptance, right, then the buyer would be obligated, if they want to get it, then they need to utilize the 35E and use this portion for the notice, check the box. And this says buyer gives notice that the seller has failed to provide the buyer with a competing offer to escalate the purchase price as required by paragraph 3A of Form 35E. So this is just where you, as the buyer, would let the seller know, hey, seller, you didn't send the competing offer. Now you got 1 day to send it over. Good. All right. Those are the changes. It's really not as hairy as it might look or sound. And again, I think that these are really good changes that will help us keep from some gotcha moments and some issues that may come up. So does anybody have quick questions about that? We don't have a whole lot of time for questions, but if you got a quick one and you're dying to ask it, if not, I'm available all day and night. No, mostly Russ is available at night, but you're welcome, Russ. All right, so let's do last couple of quick things. Let's do top 10s. Now, usually we do top 10s in the sales, in the individual, the West Seattle and the Burien sales meetings independently, but because this Tuesday meeting is kind of late in the first week, it's the 6th, right, today, and we have top 10 stuff. I don't want to wait until next week. I want to get our top 10 stuff put out there so that you can use it as graphics and stuff for your own personal marketing and all that jazz. So we're going to do top 10s for the month. And then next week in the Burien only and the West Seattle only meetings, we'll do top 10 for the quarter. So we'll save that for next week. But top 10s, let's start with West Seattle because their sheet's on top here. Top 10 for the month of March in West Seattle. And I'm going to mention this because, again, you know, the top 10 graphics that Maria does, I think, are pretty nice and a great graphic that you can share on Facebook and you know, push out there to let your folks see how great you're doing. The top 10, number 10 by a difference of only $179 of commission total. Just scocious. Number 10, Melissa Harris. Congratulations, Melissa. Number 9, Justin Odell. Number 8 is Charity Powers. Number 7, Sherry Sierra. Number 6 is Craig Roberts. Number 5, a name we haven't seen in a little bit, Marcus Wise. Welcome back, Marcus. Number 4 is Tracy Harris. Number 3 is Brian Bailey. Number 2 is Scott Lansing. And number 1 for the month of March was Sean Stolte. So congratulations, Sean. Awesome. Great month. For the Burien office, the real reason that I shared the difference in the amount between 11 and 10 is because, like I said, in the West Seattle office, it was $179. It's nothing in commissions, right? We're talking about, I won't say how much commissions, but tens of thousands of dollars in commission, all missed by $179. In the Burien office, the difference was $180.31. So virtually the same. It's like, anyway. When you see the numbers and as I do, you appreciate that. Trust me. Number 10 in the West Seattle office, Callie Lagaska. Number 9, Melissa Rupsich. Number 8 is Chris Kirkpatrick. Number 7 is Jessica G. Number 6 is Samantha Tesson. Number 5 is Diana Hinderly. Number 4 is, I did the numbers wrong. The difference between 9 and 10 was not $180.31. Number 10 actually was Donata Luz. Donata Luz was in there. I'm sorry, guys. I put the line on the wrong spot. Back up to Diana Hinderly. That means that Diana Hinderly was number 4. Number 3 is Colin McCabe. Number 2 is Tanya Lorella. And number 1, Maria Sotelo. Congratulations, Maria. What a great month. Fantastic. Awesome. Fun to see those names pop up and see who is in our top 10. So at any rate, that's about all I've got. We're going to do new and price reduced for anybody that wants to stay on in a minute and do that. And I just want to remind you, I saw again, I know I've shared this quote before, but I just love it, that if you heard your top 10s and you're like, oh, I want to be in the top 10, the quote, it just keeps hitting me in the last week or so. It's just that you can't change where you are overnight, but you can change direction. If you need help in changing direction, please reach out to me or one of your sales managers. We would love to help you in any way, partner with you to help you grow your business. Awesome. Congratulations again to those in the top 10 for the month of March. All right, I'm going to hit stop on the record.